Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we are talking about Words of Radiance, chapters 39 through 42, wherein we get a flashback with Shallan, and, as if we needed more proof that her dad is a major dick, we get some of that. And, there's a cool guy that's like half light eyes, half dark eyes. So we haven't seen that before. I don't believe. So interesting to get a glimpse of what that looks like. And then we fast forward to current day Shallan, who's coming into Sabarial's place and getting to know what he does and meeting his mistress / I guess like the person who runs his property. And then we go back to Kaladin, who's brooding as ever, but he does learn to stick to stuff and lash himself, so that was pretty cool. And we get a little kind of not scared, but we get a little suspicious of Moash, even more suspicious than we may have been before, and more brooding. We go back to Shallan, who's finding even more about her power and how to use it. So it was fun chapters, for sure. With me today is
Dak
and Data.
Yeah, just us. No Jaymee today. So, all the Jaymee fans out there, feel free to turn the podcast off. Sorry. No, don't do that. Hold on to something. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
So yeah, no Jaymee this week, but we did a decent 4 chapters here. I feel like. What did you guys think of these 4 chapters?
Yeah, good stuff. Flashback was interesting. This fellow with the different colored eyes is intriguing because I have no idea what could heterochromia symbolize on this planet. That's
right.
But again, trying to make me feel good for Shallan's brothers is like, it's not going to work. I don't like these guys. So yeah, still a mystery there, but yeah, like the narrative is really not doing their dad any favors. It's like, he may not have killed their mum, but that doesn't mean he was a good person. So
yeah.
Next chapter. So Sabarial, his paramour partner, I don't know what the correct term would be for her, Polona. I love her. She's great. I can only assume that she is the Lopin's Ma that we've discussed about. I have nothing to base this on the fact that she's the only major Herdazian woman we've met, and Lopin mentioned his Ma was somewhere on the Shattered Plains, so I can only assume this is Ma. And I would love to see that conversation. Like Kaladin's like, I don't trust that Shallan, and the Lopin's like, it's okay, my Ma's looking into her. But yeah, she seems great. Kaladin chapter. More information, stories, and everything. Once again, proving Sigzil MVP of Bridge 4. If everyone just listened to Sigzil, they could probably just solve the world at this point. And yeah, a bit of a cliffhanger on us there, where Shallan is getting ready to go out and meet the Ghostbloods. So I'm very curious to see what's next. Oh, and the Renarin thing. Oh, poor Kai.
Yeah, I was wondering. Joe didn't mention it in his summary, and I was wondering if you were going to bring it up. Renarin wants to join Bridge 4.
I just forgot. Sorry.
That's that could prove interesting. Moash not a fan, but
yeah,
I like this idea that Polona is Lopin's mom. So pulling for that now. That'll be awesome.
No. His Ma.
Yeah, Ma. Right. Yeah. Completely different thing.
Yeah. It'll be crass. It's obviously different.
But yeah, there's it is a nice little cliffhanger that we ended up on this time, where it's like, oh, here come the Ghostbloods. What's it gonna be like? So we shall find out, I suppose.
I can only assume that much like when they showed up looking for Hoyd in the Pure Lake in the first book, like, is this going to be a spot the who is this character we've met before situation, or no? But I guess we'll talk about that at the end of the episode.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah, these chapters were great. The flashback, again, like, I don't know that it gave me a lot of new information besides, like, seeing that one guy and being like, oh, so that's a thing that can happen. Interesting. But I don't feel like we get a ton of new information that's vital to the story from that particular chapter, which isn't a bad thing, but I'm just saying, it doesn't, nothing in it stuck out to me as being like, oh, I need to know about this. But then Shallan coming into kind of getting to know more about this character that, we really hadn't had any exposure to at all before. Interesting. He's got kind of an interesting setup. I also kind of like that he is a guy who is not there to fight. Like, he's not there to win gem hearts. He's like, there are other ways of making money. Like, he's taking a completely different kind of like perspective on the opportunity that exists out here in the Shattered Plains, which is pretty un-Alethi of him, but Alethi ways are obviously not always the best ways, or classic Alethi ways anyway. But so it was kind of interesting to kind of get that different experience with this character, to kind of see there are other people doing other things out here on the Shattered Plains that aren't just fighting over gem hearts, besides Dalinar, right? Because we all know that Dalinar is like, yeah, that's not what we need to be doing. But it is funny to me that he has to pay when he doesn't go on bridge, or not bridge runs, but gem heart runs. When he doesn't go on plateau runs, he's got to pay a fine, basically. It's like, yeah, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing to help the kingdom, so you got to pay this fine. I just was like, okay, that's weird. But yeah, so fun guy. Seems like he should be interesting to kind of get to know. And as obnoxious as he is, I feel like, at least my read of this, is that he's actually not that bad a dude. There are people in these books that put on a nobler posture and like are kind of like, look at me, look how wonderful I am, or whatever. Like, Amaram's the classic example of that, where he's like, well, I'm a noble dude, and but in reality, we know that he does some unscrupulous things at the very least. Murdering, it's pretty unscrupulous.
Yep.
And so this guy has like the opposite facade. He's like, he acts like he's an idiot or just obnoxious so that nobody will pay attention to him, so he can kind of do other things. But that being said, even though he's tricking people in that way, he doesn't seem like that bad of a guy. He's just making money and doing his thing. At least from my perspective right now, he seems like an okay guy. That could change, of course. But I like characters like that are like, maybe they're not like in your face, like I'm the hero, but at the same time, they're kind of just doing their thing. But they're charming. They're charming characters. And he puts on a facade of not being charming. And in certain aspects, he's not, for sure. But at the same time, he doesn't seem like a bad guy. Kaladin stuff, yeah, like I said, very broody. But no, him learning to lash himself to stuff, that's going to be very handy. I feel like the prediction I made of him, like this being the book where he has to learn how to use his powers to face a threat, it was kind of spot on, because it's like he fought Seth and he realized, like, I got to figure this out, because that dude like almost killed all of us.
That dude's got it figured out.
Yeah, that guy's got it figured out. I don't have it figured out. And so it was interesting that is kind of where we're at now. He's got to like figure this stuff out. And then we have the whole like side story, because really we knew beforehand that Seth wasn't there to kill Elhokar. He was there to kill Dalinar. We knew that already. But it is interesting to me that we've got this whole side story of like somebody did try to kill Elhokar very clumsily, and it's looking like Moash may have had something to do with it. So like there's also that part of the story that I'm like, okay, what is going on? And so I'm just kind of excited. I do love Shallan and getting to see her learn how to use her powers. All that is great and it's fun, but I think I'm more excited for the Kaladin stuff right now. Like I want him, although moving into that next chapter, like Shallan's powers are pretty cool. Like what she can do is pretty awesome. So I'm definitely not trying to take anything away from her, but I think the main plot for right now, like Urithiru and all that, that's kind of like, to us right now, it's kind of out in the ether. Like we don't know enough about what's going on with that to be able to kind of like get excited, I feel like. Whereas with the Kaladin's part of the plot, like there is still a lot of mystery going on, but like we know that there's a threat from Seth. we know that there's something coming because of the writing on the wall. Like there's a lot more anticipation of that specifically. So even though I know like the Urithiru stuff I feel like it's got to come into play with the rest of it. At the same time, I'm looking more forward to the Kaladin stuff for now.
Yeah, that's fair. And I like how you called out, like, we've finally got Kaladin. Now that he's kind of got a reason, he's having to figure out his powers, which seems weird to me, because if I had superpowers, the first thing I would be doing is figuring out how to use them all.
Right.
But he's been avoiding it for a while, it seems like.
Yeah, and it almost feels like he doesn't want the power. Well, not that he doesn't want the power, that he doesn't want to, like, not only does he not want to do stuff out in the open with it, but he doesn't want, like, to have to deal with it.
Well, I'll just throw out, he's in a society where the last people who had these powers are seen as betrayers, and they are hated by society. And he's had enough of being hated by society and people trying to kill him at this point. So I can understand a bit of reticence in that regard.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I still think trying to learn more about it is important, but he's got plenty of enemies nearby that want to kill him, and he doesn't want to give them any more excuses. So I sort of get it.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it quite like that, but you got a good point. All right. Well, I guess let's get into these chapters. Heterochromatic, which you guys called out, was heterochromia, the one eye of each color thing, or one eye of two different colors rather. And with this guy, it's even weirder because it's light and dark.
Right. I guess, like, what else does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that literally what it means? So
yeah. And so this is 4 years ago when Shallan was a kid. It's kind of easy for me to forget how young Shallan actually is. She is like 17 in the current day of the book, I think. So
yeah, I think she brings that up because somebody said, I think in the Sabarial chapter, she says.
Oh, you're right. She does.
Because he says you look younger now.
Yeah, with all the stuff that she's out here doing, it's easy for me to get for me to forget her age. Although it's also true that we talked about that you're in Earth years, she'd actually be a little bit older because Rosharan years are different. So she'd be closer to 19, I think, if we were going Earth years.
Yeah, you saying that is the first time I'm remembering that's a thing. Like, I did not remember that the years were different.
I think when we first started reading the books, I like did a whole spiel on the calendar, but it's been a very long time since
I
we
remember it now, but like you saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about that.
So Shallan's father holds feasts because he wants to pretend everything is all right. Yeah. And he invites local Bright Lords from nearby and shows off his daughter. And we get, you've met my daughter, of course, the jewel of House Devar, our pride above all others. And the people at tonight's feast aren't real thrilled to be here. And her father is drinking violet wine, which I believe is the most intoxicating wine.
Yeah, so like in general, the darker the wine, it seems like more intoxicating it is. Is that what we're understanding? Because I know, like in one of the last chapters, Adolin talked about how the orange wine was basically juice, and then the kids are drinking yellow wine in this chapter, and he's drinking violet. So I wasn't sure, like, if the color, like, the darker it was, the more.
Yeah. Does it go to? Hold on, I think that kind of, but not like 100%. Hold on, let me bring up the thing here, because there's the one just above yellow is actually like an auburn, which I feel like is darker than, like,
that'd be darker than orange.
But violet is the strongest one.
So we need like a Rosharan tavern where they can just explain it to us. We need like an exposition tavern.
There eventually will be like a very nice diagram.
Line chart?
Yeah, there's a chart in one of the books.
No, it's Arcanum.
No, just I think it's in Oathbringer. It's just one of the images that pops up between the chapters where it'll explain the whole color palette of wines.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, that seems like something in the Ars Arcanum. Let's explain the magic that binds the world together, and then the fucking drink.
Explain the alcohol, the most important thing of all.
Yeah, I need to know about that alky.
Best way to get tanked on Rosha. A travel guide by Naz.
Yeah. Stay away from the yellow wine. Drink the violet.
We find out that they had a letter from Halaran. It's been a year and a half since that day that we saw Halaran last. They had a letter from him about 6 months back, which Shallan has to read to her dad because her dad can't read, and he doesn't have a wife at the moment. And that night he beat one of the maids nearly to death. She still walks with a limp. The servants no longer gossip about him. And so Bright Lord Tavenar and his family are here tonight, and it's kind of a dour dinner. And her dad's over here bragging about his new Axehound breeding stud and how prosperous his house is when it's not at all true. And she's just thinking it's growing worse and worse. Somebody has to do something.
I'm sure Balat can do something about that new Axehound stud.
Oh, he shouldn't be doing the things he did, growing drunk, beating the Dark Eyes. And
Well,
shit. Her father has started calling Balat non-Balat as if he were the oldest. And non-Balat is looking over at the daughter of the guests. And she's like, oh, he's interested in a girl. How odd to consider.
Yeah. Interested in a girl for probably all the wrong reasons.
And her father announces that he's just made an arrangement with Bright Lord Gevelmar to send his youngest daughter along to marry him so that he will once again have a wife.
Also, weird flex. Like, he's sending his youngest daughter to marry me. This guy who has all of these children. Like, that's weird, man.
Nobility marrying is always weird, I feel like.
No, you're
that
not wrong.
Yeah, it's true.
Still. Like, I understand it's kind of transactional, but, like...
But yeah, he doesn't have to brag about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And her dad's like, why is nobody talking? I just announced that I'm betrothed. Make some noise, you idiots.
It made me think of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's like, why is no one having fun? I specifically requested it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, it's just one of those things. It's like, way to ingratiate yourselves to your guests. Call them idiots. That's what they want.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, you don't do that?
To call my guests idiots?
Yeah.
I don't have guests, so I don't know.
Oh, well, that's fair.
No, I'm just kidding.
Nip that in the bud.
No. I have guests.
Just like I don't know people.
I have people who know people.
I like people, but not in my house.
Sure. No, they can come in. They just can't stay.
But their dad has got gifts for his children to mark the occasion. The three boys get daggers, which are like engraved like shard blades and are all fancy. And Shallan gets a necklace with fat silvery links. And then the door to the dining hall bursts open, and her dad's like, who the hell is it? What's going on? And a guy comes in, one eye an intense blue, the other dark brown. And the guy announces that he's been sent by High Prince Valam, ruler of these lands. It's come to his attention that dark rumors persist here. Rumors regarding the death of a light-eyed woman. And Dad here is like, my wife was killed by her lover, who then killed himself. So, guy, that is the story. We're sticking to it. And I don't remember if we've ever even heard Shallan's father's name before, but here's like, others tell a different story, Bright Lord Lindevar. And so this guy's here to investigate. And he sends everybody else out. He's like, get away. Get out of here, all of you. I need to talk to this guy. And the guests are like, okay, here we go. But the girl, their
again,
daughter...
Which I know this guy stormed in, but again, like, your guests are there. Everybody get out. It's just like, is that really the way you want to treat your guests, buddy?
Apparently it is, yes.
I mean, they're not complaining because they wanted to get the fuck out. So
yes,
no,
we have an exit.
Totally. I mean, I get it, but like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. He's a terrible host. I imagine this would be like, he's basically Lur, ruler of the planet Omicron person I hate.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, was that at the end? I thought you were going to explain to us how he was like Lur. Was that the complete thought?
No, I think it speaks for itself.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So who's Unda? Maybe his new wife.
This would be after they separate or whatever.
Oh, okay. But their daughter, the Tavenar's daughter, does glance back at Balat, so maybe there's like a mutual thing going on here. And he sends Shallan off to sit with her brothers so that he can talk to this guy. And Shallan knows from the eyes, Shallan figures out that this is Redin, the High Prince's bastard son. His father used him as an executioner and assassin, it was said. So we've heard about this guy once before because when Tin was telling us about what was happening in Yakaved, High Prince, what's this guy's name? High Prince Valum? Yes, Valum. It was like, there's rumors that he might be dead. If so, his bastard son is pretending that he's not. So here's the guy. And so their father hadn't banished them from the room, so they just go and sit in chairs by the fireplace and give him privacy to discuss stuff. And Shallan is worried, like, what if the High Prince's son decides that father's guilty? She didn't want him to fall. She wanted to stop the darkness that was slowly strangling them all. Her brothers, on the other hand, like, Balat is like, man, maybe they'll finally drag him away. That would be fitting for what he's done. And Shallan says, he didn't kill Mother. And Balat's like, what? Okay, then what did happen? And she starts to talk, and then she thinks, like, she didn't know. She couldn't think, not of that time, that day. Had father actually done it? Like, she said she can't go there. And then she says they're talking about plants. And her brother's like, wait, what? Yes, I can faintly hear them. My ears are better than yours. Father is complaining the trees in his garden never listen when he tells them to obey. The messenger says, have you tried beating them for their disobedience? And she goes on in this vein for a while, until we get to the joke that she builds toward for a long time, where it's like, yeah, if that works and the trees grow back their branches, I'll be relieved. And everyone stares at her.
She had me, like, I thought she was really talking about something important, and then it took me, I had to read it twice. I was like, wait, what's happening now? So she had me, I'll tell you.
It's a lot of effort to go through for a pun.
It really is, but she's like, just before she starts, she's thinking, like, someone has to do something to, like, make things not so dark around here, and this is apparently her approach. And when everyone gets the joke, finally, they bust out laughing, and they're like, oh my gosh, you should be ashamed, that was so awful. And she's like, oh, we should all laugh more. And her brother's like, this hasn't been a place for laughter. She's like, because of father, there's one of him and four of us. We just need to be more optimistic. And we get another joke where they talk about we need more color around here. Anything would be better, a nice change from father's face. And Shallan's like, oh, don't be so hard on father's face. It's doing a great job of doing its duty, which is reminding us that there are worse things than his odor. It's really quite a noble calling. And they're just like, she's just gonna try to do whatever she can come up with to make them laugh, and it's fun. These kids sitting in the corner trying to not be miserable in their home.
I'm here all week and the rest of my life because father won't let me leave.
She makes another joke, and like Balat lets out a laugh, and her father's like, shut up over there. And he's like, it's a feast. Didn't you tell us to be more Vedden? And so that it's like they're kind of the siblings are kind of cheered by this little joking session, but things are not going so well over at the discussion between father and the High Prince's son, where he's like slamming the table and talking very emphatically to this guy.
To be fair, knowing what little we know about this guy, that just seems like an everyday conversation for him.
You might be right, but
I asked for iced water, you prick! Flips the table.
Yeah, maybe. And the messenger, however, is completely unperturbed by these shows of temper, and eventually just stands up and he's like, I guess I'm not going to get anywhere with this conversation, but I came prepared for that. And then he just kind of announces to the room in general that any light eyes of birth who wants to provide witness to what actually happened will be welcome. There was a witness who was willing to speak the truth, but he has since made himself unavailable. Do any of you have his courage? So one has to assume that he's talking about Halaran, but none of the brothers, or I guess Shallan for that matter, are brave enough to stand up and try to say something against their father. Balat wants to, but he's like, no, he'll kill me. If I say a word, he'll kill me.
So this guy who kills animals as stress relief, one time he finds something he could kill and it would actually be worthwhile, he's too scared to do it. The one thing, dude, shut up and kill your dad.
I mean, most people who like pick on things weaker than them are not brave enough to stand up to someone stronger than them. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, fair point.
And so the guy's just like, okay, I mean, if any of you remember the truth at some point in the future, then you will find ears willing to listen in Vedinar. And
I know what he means, but it's such a weird way of phrasing it.
Yeah, it is a little bit weird. And Dad's like, you will not tear this house apart, bastard. We stand by another. And he's like, save for those who can no longer stand, I assume. And then he kicks the guy out. He kicks his kids out of the room, and something bad's gonna happen. Like his temper is lost here, and the servants should run. But that's the end of our flashback. Chapter 40, Polona. That they responded immediately and with great consternation is undeniable, as these were primary among those who would forswear and abandon their oaths. The term recreance was not then applied, but has since become a popular title by which this event is named. So this actually goes with the last epigraph we found, because they're both from Words of Radiance, chapter 38, page 6. So in the last one that we read, there was the discovery of some wicked thing of eminence. And now on that same page, we have that they responded with great consternation, as these were the primary among those who would forswear and abandon their oaths. So I think what we're supposed to take from it, the combination of these two, is that whatever the wicked thing of eminence was, it is what led to the forswearing and abandoning of their oaths. At least the two are on the same page, so they seem related. Which is interesting, because we know in present day, like, people seem to have no idea about like why the Radiance did what they did.
If they even care at all.
Yeah, right. And I mean, clearly this book says like, oh, hey, this thing happened and that's why they did it, but it doesn't say what the thing was. It was just some wicked thing of eminence. But we cut to Sabariel, who's taken Shallan back to his camp, and we get the note that someone mentioned that Sabariel's like, you look younger. Like, I could have sworn you were like 25, but now you can't be older than 14. And she's like, I'm 17. Same difference. I thought your dress was more vibrant and your features sharper and prettier. Must have been the light. So she was doing something in there to impress those people. Do you always make a habit of insulting the looks of young ladies, or is it only after you drool in front of them? Because he was napping in the carriage. And as they go through his camp, she notices like the way that things are laid out, the taverns and shops and buildings that could hold dozens of families. The streets are crowded. There's rounded roofs, which is new. And he says, yeah, my engineers say they repel the winds better. And there's so many people here. And he's like, yeah, almost all permanent residents. I have the most complete force of tailors, artisans, and cooks in the camps. 12 manufactories, textiles, shoes, ceramics, mills. I control the glass blowers as well. I like how he says that. He controls them. Like, they're all mine, the glass blowers.
Someday there will come
You
a
want
battle.
glass? You gotta go. Yeah. You want
And
glass? You gotta go
on the
through
front
me.
line, they're just gonna blow glass straight at the bad guys.
Yeah. It burns, and it's hardening. It's hardening.
She's like, I've heard your forces are among the least successful out here. And he's like, yeah, the others hunt for quick income from the gem hearts, but what are they going to spend that money on? My textile
stuff.
mills will produce uniforms cheaper than they can be shipped in for. My farmers provide better food than soul casting. And she's like, you sly eel, while the others fight a war, you've been building an economy. It's like, yeah, I had to be careful at first so they wouldn't notice, but it's too late now. I mean, I have to pay Dalinar's fees for avoiding the plateau runs, but it's worth it. The smarter high princes have figured out what I'm up to. The others just think I'm a lazy fool. And and so you're not a lazy fool? No, of course I am. Fighting is too much work. Besides, soldiers die, and that makes me pay their families. It's just useless all around.
Fair point.
And so they pull up to his large manor out here. He's like, yeah, we probably have a room for you somewhere, maybe in the cellars. Never do seem to have enough space for all the stuff I'm expected to have. 3 full sets of dining furniture, as if I'm ever going to have anyone over. I like this guy. That's the way I think, man. Like, why do we need a whole dining set? We're not going to have anybody over. You do need a place to eat yourself, but as far as I can tell, he doesn't seem to have any kids. So,
No, me and my family, we just eat from one long bowl. You're talking about a trough. You're eating from a trough.
well, yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, you say tomato, I say delicious.
Touche.
So a short woman in a fine dress comes out, and Sabariel's like, the bane of my existence.
This is the thing that makes me think this guy is legitimately a good dude. If they have a relationship like this with the person they're in love with in Brandon's books, they're generally okay.
Yeah. Like, I feel like this is a very Breeze-style relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, Vin and Ellen were pretty good about ribbing each other. Serene and Raiden were pretty good about ribbing each other like this.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
This is a sign of a healthy relationship.
Maybe this is what Brandon's relationship is like. That's why it's like this is the only way he writes good relationships.
He's like, it's like, so all the best lines where like the woman is ribbing like their partner. That's stuff that my wife has said to me.
Maybe. And, like, this woman sees Shallan and she's like, please tell me you didn't kidnap her. Like, that's just the first thought that pops into her head. And Shallan realizes...
Oh, Jesus, again, Ben?
Shallan realizes from the accent that she's her Dazian. And she's also got those fingernails with, like, the rock-like cast to them.
He's like, no bullshit, because I wasn't with a hooker today. Ha ha!
Just the delivery of that line is so great.
Mm.
Oh, man. And Sabario's just like, yeah, she insisted on coming. I couldn't dissuade her. We'll have to give her a room or something. Okay, who is she? I don't know, some foreigner. Her coming with me seemed to annoy Dalinar, so I let it happen. He turns around like, what was your name again? And Shallan gives her name and then like gives a bow to Polona, and Polona's like, oh, she seems polite, which means you probably won't fit in here, but I can't believe you brought some random girl home. And he's like, oh, you make me the most henpecked man in all of Alethkar. She's like, we're not in Alethkar, and I'm not even storming married. I'm not marrying you, so stop asking. And then she goes, she's far too young for you. And he's like, I already used that line on Ruthar. It was great. You should have seen his face. And she tells him there's wine in the study. And he goes, what about food? And she's like, you ran off the cook, remember? Oh, right. Well, you could have made food. And she's like, well, so could you.
What did he do to the cook?
Right? Yes, that's a great question. And so after he goes inside, Polona's like, what actually happened? And she's like, well, I mean, he told the truth, just left out a few facts. I'm going to marry Adolin Colin. I thought staying in the Colin household would be a little bit too restrictive, so I looked for other options. And she's like, that actually makes it sound like Turi. And then he calls out, don't call me that. Okay, like the idiot did something politically savvy. And then Shallan says, well, I kind of bullied him into it. And also I implied that he was going to give me a bunch of money, a very generous stipend. And the voice from inside goes, too large one. She's like, is he just standing in there listening? And she goes, yeah, he's good at skulking. Well, come on, let's get you settled.
Oh, yeah, this happens all the time. It's like, you can't open a door in here without his ear being pressed against the keyhole.
And I also like that she's like, let me know what he implied that he was going to give you, and I'll make sure it happens. Like, she's just like, yeah, you're good. And eventually Polona's like, do you have like a lady's maid? And she's like, I got 18 soldiers and 5 slaves. And she's like, and they're going to help you change clothes? No, I meant that I want somewhere to house them. It's like, oh, yeah, we'll take care of that.
So the answer to the do you have a maid is no.
We're getting off the subject.
Yeah, a little bit. And she says, here's when food is made. If you want something at other times, ask the kitchen. Cook might swear at you, assuming I can get him to come back this time. They have running water, which she'd never seen before Kharbranth. And so she's very impressed by this. She's like, I'm sorry, we didn't have anything like this in Yak Ved. Bologna's just like, well, welcome to civilization. I trust you left your club and loincloth at the door.
Even on this far remote world, somewhere else, like, that's the symbol of cavemen. Clubs and loincloths.
Yeah, apparently. I hadn't thought about it like that, but that's a good point. She tells Polona, thank you. And Polona's just like, you're not the first stray he's brought home. Some of us even end up staying. And so it's kind of a cute moment. Like, I feel like you're probably right. Like, Sabarial may not be all that bad, and Polona seems pretty great. So Shallan's found herself almost accidentally in a decent situation, I think. And Shallan just realizes, like, for the first time in a while, she's not fighting for survival or worrying about being murdered by one of her traveling companions. So she just falls asleep. Like, it is time. And that's the end of that chapter. From the same chapter of Words of Radiance, but a much later page 20, this act of great villainy went beyond the impudence which had hitherto been ascribed to the orders. As the fighting was particularly intense at the time, many attributed this act to a sense of inherent betrayal. And after they withdrew, about 2,000 made assault upon them, destroying much of their membership. But this was only 9 of the 10, as one said they would not abandon their arms and flee, but instead entertain great subterfuge at the expense of the other 9. So that's interesting in that, we saw in one of Dalinar's vision a moment where, like, the Radiants, like, gave up their shards and broke their oaths or whatever. Apparently after that, people got pissed off and killed them. Which is like, I bet you wished you hadn't given up your swords now, huh? But also, only 9 of the 10 did this, as one would not abandon their arms and flee.
So that's got to be a reference to the fact that 9 of the heralds walked and town was left behind.
Oh, interesting thought. It could be.
Yeah,
Some
that's
way,
kind
yes.
of what I was thinking as well. Like they've got to be connected somehow.
Yeah, okay. Well, then we'll have to put that in our back pocket and try to remember it and see if it's relevant to things in the future. This is a Kaladin chapter. He's down in the chasm with Bridge 17 coming in behind him. And the other night when he came back, he was like, "Where's Teft?" And so now he's like, "Hey, by the way, where'd you go the other night?" And Teft's like, "Well, I wasn't on duty, so I went to the market. Do I have to report every little thing I do?" And Cal's like, "You went to the market in a high storm?" He's like, "Well, I don't know. Time might have gotten away from me, rather. So."
Look, I really just needed a fucking taco.
And Kaladin has to kind of stop himself from pressing more. He's like, they're not bridgemen anymore. They're entitled to have free time to start living their lives again. I can't protect them every minute of every day.
Get off my back.
He still wants to. He's like, if I don't know where they are, how can I keep them safe?
Yes, Dad.
Yeah, it's very much like that. And so they brought this bridge down into Bridge 17 down here with their Sergeant Pitt to give them the inspiration of being down in the chasms, kind of like they did with the group of sergeants earlier. These chasms are mine. I give you leave to practice here. And so they're going to go off and get ready. And in the meantime, we're going to go and talk to some of the rest of the bridge crew. Kaladin mentions, she's like, "Oh, you can't be protecting everyone like a," and he goes, "a father curl watching over his eggs?" She's like, "Yeah. Wait, what's that?" It's a crab about the size of a small axe hound. Looks like a cross between a crab and a tortoise. She's like, "Oh, I want to see one."
There's a lot of crab humor in this chapter. There's another one later on.
And
Also, how is this not Avatar, but everything is combined with a crab?
It's a very specific sort of Avatar world.
Yeah, it's all crab. All crab all the time.
Syl is trying to draw him out on, like, what is it that you want now? Like, you've got your men safe. They're not being murdered on bridge runs anymore. So, like, life goals. What are we trying to do next? And he's like, "I want to beat the assassin because that's my job." And she goes, "No, that's not it." He's like, "Well, you've gotten that good at reading human intentions?" And she's like, "No, not all humans, just you." And he's like, "Well, maybe I want to beat the assassin because this is all his fault. He killed Gavilar. Tien got drafted. I followed him. Tien died." And she thinks that we're still not there, but we get distracted by Sigzil and Rock and Lopin down here. And Sigzil's like, "Look, we're asking the wrong questions here. We're saying the Parshendi are savages. And everyone says they hadn't even met other people until the day they encountered the Alethi expedition. So where did they get a Shin assassin? A Shin assassin who can surge bind, no less." Like,
Excellent question. Sigzil is the man.
well, I mean, we know that where Seth came from out of Shinovar, at least, that he got sold to that one guy who presumably sold him on to someone else later on. But so it's not like the Parshendi somehow went to Shinovar and got themselves an assassin, but still, I mean, these guys don't do that.
But it's still a big stretch. Then it's like, okay, so yeah, how does this absolute beast of a weapon come into the possession of the guys who have never met humans before?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so Kaladin's like, "Are you trying to say the assassin in white never worked for the Parshendi, or do you think they lied about being isolated beforehand?" And Sigzil's like, "I'm not trying to imply anything. My master just trained me to ask questions. Something doesn't make sense, so we ask about it. The Shin are extremely xenophobic. They rarely leave their own land, and you never find them working as mercenaries. So why is this guy going around assassinating kings? Is he even still working for the Parshendi?" And Kaladin's like, "I mean, does it matter who he's working for?" And Sigzil goes, "Of course it does." And Kaladin says,
Yeah.
"Why?"
Because you're at war with the Parshendi, and this is going to inflame that war, idiot.
Well, Sigzil's point is like, well, if we know who his employer is, it might tell us what their goal is, which might help us defeat him by knowing what he's going to do and why. And Kaladin's like, "Oh, okay." And then he tries to run up the wall. I love the way it's just, as Sigzil explains this, Kaladin smiled, then tried to run up the wall, and then falls on his back. And Rock's like, "I mean, this is fun to watch, but are you sure that you can do this?" And Kaladin's like, the assassin walked on the ceiling. And then at the end of the fight, he just, like, flew away. Also, he made Adolin fall to the ceiling. And Lopin's like, "Ha, I knew it. When we have this figured out, the king of all Herd has. He will say to me, 'Lopin, you are glowing, and this is impressive, but you can also fly. For this you may marry my daughter.'"
So weird.
And Sigzil's like, "The king of Herd doesn't have a daughter." And Lopen's like, he doesn't. I've been lied to all this time. And Kaladin
Lopen,
says,
do you need to sit down?
yeah, probably. Kaladin
Need
says,
a hot dog.
You don't even know your own royal family? And Lopen's like, gone. I haven't been to Herdaz since I was a baby. There are as many Herdazians in Alethkar and Yakaved these days as in our homeland. I'm practically an Alethi, only not so tall and grouchy. And so Kaladin is still trying to figure out how to do this thing, like walk on walls and stuff. And he's like, Syl, do you know how this works? She does not. But the assassin is a windrunner. She's like, I think? Something like you? Maybe? And then Sigil is watching him talk to air, and he's like, man, I wish I could see it. And then, gah, it looks like a little person. Syl has suddenly made herself visible to Sigil. And she goes, I like him. Also, Sigil, I am a she, not an it. Thank you very much. He's like, oh my gosh, Spren have genders? She's like, yeah. I mean, it probably has something to do with the way you view us, personification of the forces of nature or some similar gobbledy-blarthy.
I'll admit, it must have been a lot of restraint on Brandon's part not to title the chapter Gobbledy-Blarthy.
Oh, I never thought of that, but you're probably right.
Good old Gobbledy-Blarthy.
I mean, Scars is honestly kind of a generic title. Gobbledy-Blarthy might have been better.
I mean,
Yeah,
the scars make
did
sense
in the first chapter.
'cause he talks
Jibblefish.
about like his scars and stuff.
And Sigil's just like continues to be freaked out by Syl. Like, she talks like a real person. The stories say the Night Watcher might be capable of that. Powerful Spren, vast Spren. And Syl's like, is he calling me vast? I'm not sure I like that.
Sweet fat joke on a Spren.
And Kaladin's like, damn it, we have to figure this out. The assassin's coming back. And Rock's like, so jump at the wall some more. I will not laugh much. And then he finds a crab on the ground, a little bitty crab, and just starts eating it. He just pops it in his mouth, and Sigil's like, ew. And Rock says, tastes good, but better with salt and oil.
Most things do.
Yeah. And so they get the other three get into a discussion about, was it the assassin in white who sabotaged the railing, tried to kill the king? And they're like, nah, I mean, he could do it way easier than that. Meanwhile, Kaladin is concentrating on the storm, the feeling of the stormlight inside of him. And it's like, it's raw power, but no, power is the wrong term. It was a force, like the surges that ruled the universe. I mean, they made fire burn, rocks fall, light glow. And the guy's like, hey, Cal, was that, how smoothly was the railing cut? Could it have been a shard blade? He's not really paying attention. And he gets a brief glimpse of presumably Shadesmar, another place with a distant sky and a sun enclosed. And he goes, there. He made the direction of the wall become down. So somehow he figured it out. He figured out how to change the direction of gravity, basically. And he falls to the wall.
So it seems like Shadesmar has a really big role in how the Roshar powers work, because every visit to Shadesmar yields some kind of lasting, like, understanding of the magic. And so I'm trying to like figure out, you know, what is its place in this world? Like, what is Shadesmar, like, what is the cognitive realm, this place, have to do with how the powers work? Why does it's called cognitive power, I guess? I don't know. It's very confusing for me.
Is the barrier between the physical realm and the cognitive realm just really thin here?
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you're right that it does seem to keep popping up. Like when Yasna in the prologue met up with those Spren, she ends up in Shadesmar. Shallan ends up making trips there when she's trying to like soul cast, and now Kaladin's getting like a glimpse of it here. So yeah, what is the significance of it? This is a good question. We do not know yet. Okay, he's walking on the wall now. He walks up almost all the way to the top of the chasm. Lopen's like, this is great, run. And Kaladin's like, okay, and he runs up there. And Syl, when he gets just to the lip, Syl's like, come on, go out onto the plateau, into the sunlight. And Kaladin says, no, there's scouts out there who watch for gem hearts. They'll see me. And she's like, do it anyway. Stop hiding, Kaladin. Be. And finally, Kaladin comes to what he's really... She was asking him earlier, like, what do you want? And he was either unwilling or unable to, like, tell what he actually wanted. And here he goes, I have to know. You ask me why I'm protecting Dalinar, I have to know if he's really what he seems, if he lives up to his reputation.
Like the giving up the shard blade wasn't enough for you?
And he's like,
Guess
that will tell me. And she goes, tell you what, if Honor is dead. And Syl's like, well, I mean, he is, but he lives on in the hearts of men and in me. And Cal's like, wait, what?
She just goes, Dalinar would have understood that reference.
And she says Dalinar Kholin is a good man, and Callan says he's friends with Amaram. He could be the same inside. And she says, you don't believe that. And he says, yeah, but believing it isn't enough. I need to know. You ask me what I want, that's it. I need to know if I can trust Dalinar, and if I can, I will tell him what I can do. I will believe that there's at least one Light Eyes who won't try to take everything from me, like Rashon, like Amaram, like Sadeas. And she's like, okay, well, what about Amaram? And he's like, well, him I'm going to kill. And she says, don't let this destroy you. And he says, it can't. Amaram already took care of that. And the ground, it's been kind of fading for a second here, but finally the ground fully reasserts itself, and he falls backwards from the top of the chasm and smacks into the ground. But he managed to get some stormlight on the way down, so he lands feet first with like a burst of light. It's a very like superhero landing. And Rock is like, that was a very fast way to get down. But it did not include falling on face, which would be fun. So you only get soft clap. He proceeded to clap. It was indeed soft.
Rock knows what he's about.
Yeah. And Kaladin, turns out he was listening. He's like, it was cut by a shard blade. And it was not the assassin. But don't tell anyone just yet. Also, it must have happened after the high storm. So that narrows the window for us. And they talk about like maybe a rope could have been lowered down and somebody got up that way. And Kaladin says that he's going to ask around about who was out there. You guys don't say anything to anybody. And Six was like, okay, fine. Can you do that thing again? More tests? We have time. And besides, I believe Rock wants to see if you fall on your face. And Kaladin's like, okay, fine. By the way, why did you guys clear away all the rubble in the area? And Six was like, what are you talking about? I mean, yeah, you didn't have to move all the remains around, all the skeletons. And then Sigil like illuminates the wall with a sphere, and you see that there's deep gouges where moss has been scraped away and the rock scored. A chasm fiend has been in the area.
Oh shit.
And Kaladin's like, I didn't think they came this close to the war camps. Maybe we shouldn't train down here for a while. And Rock goes, it's gone now, otherwise we would be eaten. It's obvious. Go back to training. He really wants to see Kaladin fall on his face.
So the Alethi used to always have guards to make sure they didn't come close, right?
No, I don't think so, because even when they were part of Sadeas's bridge crews, they would get sent down here, and there were rumors that chasm fiends would eat people.
Okay. For some reason I thought I remember there being guards, or at least people that watch to see if they're coming closer.
There's people who watch up top for when a chasm fiend comes above to like go into a chrysalis.
Okay.
But they can't see down here.
Okay, never mind then.
And so a few hours later, it seems that coming down here has done some good for Bridge 17. They are more lively than they were before. And tonight they get to eat with Bridge 4. So, things will be nice. And as they approach, like, Teft kind of freezes. He's like, wait, something is wrong here. Like, Rock's handing out food. Everyone's sitting around eating, but there's something off. The laughter was forced. Their posture's nervous. And when Kaladin comes into the light, he finds a guy sitting there. Nice uniform. It's Shallan Kaladin. Oddly, he was rocking back and forth with a small motion staring at the ground. And Kaladin's like, hey, Bright Lord, is there something you need? Renarin wants to join Bridge 4. And Kaladin's like, oh, jeez. Let's talk away from the fire. And Renarin's like, sir, I want to. And Kaladin's like, first, don't call me sir. You're a Light Eyes and also the son of the most powerful man in Eastern Roshar. And I like, Kaladin's just like, oh, jeez. He'd gotten used to dealing with much larger problems. He'd forgotten the headaches of dealing with a highborn Light Eyes.
Damn it, this guy's trying to be nice to me. What did I do to deserve this?
And, like, Kaladin's like, you can't be in Bridge 4. We're your bodyguards. What, you gonna guard yourself? And Renarin's like, I won't be a liability, sir. I'll work hard. And he's like, well, yeah, it's not about that. Why do you want to be in Bridge 4? And he's like, my dad and my brother, they're soldiers, and I'm not, in case you hadn't noticed. And Renarin's like, I have a blood weakness. And I like Kaladin's like, that's a folk description of a lot of different conditions. What do you actually have? And Renarin's like, I'm epileptic. It means, he's like, yeah, I know. Is it idiopathic or symptomatic? And Renarin's like,
what? He's like, that's a word I've never heard.
Right?
My education didn't cover this.
And he's like, how bad are the seizures? And Renard's like, I mean, it's fine. It's not like everyone says. I'm not like falling to the ground and frothing uncontrollably. I just twitch, or my arm will jerk for a little bit. So you retain consciousness? Yeah. Myoclonic, probably. You've been given bitter leaf to chew. He's like, yeah, I mean, that's not really the whole problem. I get like weak along one side of my body. Cal's like, huh. You ever have like persistent relaxation of the muscles, like the inability to smile on one side? And Renard's like, no. How do you know this stuff? Aren't you a soldier? I know some field medicine. Field medicine for epilepsy. And Kaladin just coughs. He's like, well, anyway.
Enough about that. What you want to join Bridge 4, you say?
And so they talk a little about like, you know, the whole afterlife thing, where it's like the Ardents claim that all callings is important, and yet what's the afterlife supposed to be? This big war to reclaim the Tranquiline Halls, where the best soldiers are glorified. And I love Kaladin's sake, like, if the afterlife really is a big war, I hope I end up in damnation. Maybe I'll at least get some sleep.
Yeah, like, God, that sounds terrible. You just fight for all of eternity. That sounds great.
Yeah, well, I mean, Valhalla and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not Nordish.
I died, and there's still more work for me to do. What a jip.
Yeah. Oh.
And so he's like, look, I'll obey your commands. Treat me like a new recruit. I'm not a prince's son. I'm not a light eyes. I'll do whatever you say. Adolin, when he was a kid, or when he was young, my father made him serve in a spearman squad for 2 months. He says that an officer should serve in the shoes of the men that he leads. And so he's like, please. I figured like your men spend a bunch of time not actually going out into battle, but patrolling. So if I have a fit while patrolling, I probably won't hurt anyone. But at least I can see what like being a soldier is actually like. And Kaladin's just like, oh my gosh, okay. And he's kind of impressed by Renard, and he's like, clearly this kid's like terrified to do this, and he's doing it anyway. Could one really ask more of a recruit? And he can't believe he's actually considering this.
Plus, you know, you're always Kaladin's always banging on about how the light eyes are all arrogant sons of bitches. And here is one who is coming along, humbling himself, asking a dark eyes to take him on. Like, that's huge. Kaladin should be celebrating that.
100% agree. I feel like that's hard for Kaladin to wrap his brain around, that he may need to reevaluate, at least in one case, his opinion of all light eyes.
Yeah, fair.
And I like Renard's like, I should probably point out how much easier it'll be to guard me if I'm already just training with your men. I swear, the only time I'll leave are when I have to go practice my shards with Swordmaster Zahel. And Kaladin's like, okay, you really want to be a soldier? Yes, sir. Fine. Go take those dirty stew bowls, wash them, and then help Rock clean the cauldron and put away the cooking implements. And Renard says, yes, sir. Not just yes, sir, but with enthusiasm. An enthusiasm he'd never heard of from anyone assigned to washing duty. And I love the note that the men are so like uncertain how to react that Renarin is trying to get the dirty bowls. They'll just hand him bowls they haven't even finished with because it seems to please him. And Kaladin's like,
they're all just like, oh damn it, Renarin must be hungry. All right, light eyes, you can have the rest of my food.
And Kaladin's like, well, I mean, they were nervous around Shen at first too, so maybe they'll grow to accept it.
They're like, man, look at this piece of work. It's not enough that we guard him. We got to give him our food too.
Okay, guys, who do we trust more, the light eyes or the Parshmen?
That's a tough one. And so Moash comes up and he's like, you're really gonna let him join? Like, this is where we're supposed to be safe from them. And Cal's like, yeah, but he's a good kid. I think if any light eyes could fit in here, he probably could. And Moash does not quite agree. He's like, he doesn't act right, Cal. The way he talks, the way he looks at people, he's weird. But even beyond that,
weird.
He's light-eyed. That should be enough. It means we can't trust him.
Mm.
And Cal's like, we don't need to. We just keep an eye on him, maybe train him to defend himself. And Moash is like, okay, that he feels like is a slightly better reason. And so Kaladin, like, Moash is the only person he's heard about being on that balcony after the storm. And he's like, we talked about before, that it seems kind of ridiculous to think that Moash has a shard blade or something like that. But Kaladin has not been able to bring himself to ask Moash. And he thinks here, like, we're alone. Nobody else can hear. Should I go ahead and ask? And he's like, but ask, like, how do I say, Moash, were you involved in a plot to kill the king? He can't do it. And Moash goes, have you thought about what we're going to do about Amaram? And Callan's like, Amaram is my problem. And Moash says, no, you're Bridge 4. Your problem is our problem. He's the one who made you a slave. And Callan's like, it was more than that. He killed my friends right in front of me. He's a murderer. And Moash is like, okay, well, then we need to do something about it. And Callan's like, what, go to the authorities? And Moash is like, no, that's stupid. You have to get him into a duel and kill him. Something's going to feel wrong to you deep down in your gut until you personally kill this guy. And Callan's like, it sounds like you know what that feels like. And Moash is like, yeah. I don't want to talk about it right now, though.
Mm-hmm.
And Callan's like, well, we're Bridge 4. Like you said, your problems are my problems. And Moash is like, okay, yeah, you're right. But not tonight. Tonight I want to relax, all right? And it turns out Teft and Moash and Lopin and Rock, a bunch of the guys, they're going out for drinks. And they're like, hey, Cal, come on. Where? Out. Visit some taverns, play some rings, get something to drink. And Cal's like, go out. How weird. He's like, no, I should probably stay and look after stuff. And they try to get him, and he's just like, no, I'll go with you another time, okay? And Moash is fine, and they take off. And Syl says, why didn't you go? And he's like, I can't live like that anymore. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. And that's basically the end of the chapter, that's just sad. Kaladin can't go out and like hang out with the guys.
They're leaning really hard on Moash having something to do with the assassination attempt, and that's what's making me think he doesn't have anything to do with it, or at least not the way they think. Just because it's like they're putting so much focus on this to distract us from something else, and I don't know what else we're meant to be looking for here. But yeah, I don't think Moash was involved in this. I still hate the guy, but yeah, just there was the note there, like Kaladin thinks to himself, what did the king do to your family? I'm like, did we confirm it was the king who did something to him? That seems like a leap.
Wait, did he say that?
Yeah, it's after we're Bridge 4, like you said, your problems are mine. And then
yep.
What did the king do to your family, Moash? Like, he didn't say it, but he definitely thought it. And I'm like, what?
So yeah, it's an expansion of that. Like, he assumes, which is a big jump, because he won't even ask the question, like, were you somehow involved in it? But so on some level, he's assuming that Moash was involved and that the king is the person he's got something out for.
Yeah, which I think is a leap. Like,
yeah,
we don't have
we
don't have confirmation of that yet. Or like, honestly, we didn't even really have any hints that Elhokar might be the one.
No, you're right. So Kaladin's kind of leaping to conclusions here.
Yeah.
He's got to jump to conclusions, Matt, and he's using it.
Getting on my fucking trampoline.
Well, I guess hopefully we will find out at some point. We're moving to the next chapter, Mere Vapors.
I assume we will.
Yeah, one would think, right? He can't keep dancing around this forever.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be after Moash gets eaten by a chasm fiend, but who knows?
It'll be his eulogy, like, and he had something against the king for some reason. I don't know.
Elhokar is just like, what did I do to him? And everyone's like, King Elhokar, why are you at a funeral for a Dark Eyes?
Yeah, why are you here? Okay.
How long have you been there?
He's just in the shadows. He steps out of the shadows. Like, where'd you come from?
I've been here the whole time.
I attend all of the funerals in the war camps, didn't you know?
Yeah. I'm like, that movie where they crash weddings? I'm the Will Ferrell character that crashes the funerals.
Oh man. He's just trying to hook up with everybody. That's scary. So in the last chapter for this week, this excerpt from Words of Radiance. But as for Ishi Alin, his was the most important part at their inception. This is much earlier in Words of Radiance, chapter 2, page 4. So we're talking about like maybe the inception of the Knights Radiant. He readily understood the implications of surges being granted to men and caused organization to be thrust upon them. As having too great power, he let it be known that he would destroy each and every one unless they agreed to be bound by precepts and laws. So, all right then. This guy was like, okay, we're going to have organization here, and if you don't do what I say, I'm going to destroy you all. So, nice guy. Shallan wakes up and is still in her bed in Sabarial's manor, and someone came in while she was gone and left her some stuff. There's food on the table, and she eats that up. And Pattern is hanging out there. It's the floating ball of weird patterns. And he tries to understand why she likes some food and not other food, and he can't quite grasp what taste is about. And she goes, it's like color that you see with your mouth, and that was an awful metaphor. I mean, yeah, how do you describe taste? That's a really good point. Is that it's a little bit difficult. And then she starts looking through the trunks that she's got with her, and Tin's span reed is blinking. And so she's like, "Oh man, I need to be careful with this." And before she like activates it, Pattern says pattern. Going through like the previous exchanges between Tin and whoever it is that she's talking to on the other end of the span reed, and Pattern has noticed a pattern in the exchanges. There's basically a code, a group of 5 characters that authenticate who you're talking to. Like if the first message begins with the words begin with these 3 letters, then you have to use these other 2 letters to confirm on the other end, so that everyone knows that nobody's impersonating anybody. So pattern is a code breaker, is what we're learning here, and how hella useful is that?
Yep.
Adam just has all these abilities, and seems like he's just a great friend to have.
Right? He can unlock stuff. He can break codes. Like, this is great.
Yeah. He also wants you to lie to people. That part is not as good. In a friend, you don't want somebody who's like, tell him a lie. Come on, lie to him.
I want a pattern now. This is great. Just sits on your shoulders like, you should lie.
You should lie some more.
Like the little devil on the shoulder. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's sort of like, ooh, that was a good lie.
Yeah, good lie.
I like that one.
Shallan is trying out a little something new with her powers after discovering the code. She sketches out a new face for herself. It needs to be dark eyes, long hair, but not the same color as her hair, similar height and build, but a very different face. And then she somehow uses her stormlight to put that face over her own. Not just like a mask. Like when she wrinkles her nose, the face wrinkles its nose. Like it is extremely similar to what we saw Raoden do when he was disguising himself in Elantris. Although when he did it, he had to come up with a very complex series of aeons that connected the fake face to points on his face or something. And here Shallan just does a drawing and makes it happen. And Shallan's like, oh my gosh, this worked. What can we do with this? And Pattern says, whatever we imagine. Or whatever you can imagine. I'm not good with what is not. But I like it. I like
AKA, we can lie.
I like the taste of it. And he seems very pleased with himself for using taste in the
sounds kind of gross. I love the taste of
it. And she touches the nose, which is a little bit bigger than her nose, and notes that there's a fuzz of stormlight when something passes through the image. So it's not solid, but it looks solid. And she's like, how long will this last? And he says it feeds on light. So if she's got some light with her, it can feed the illusion. And she's like, okay, well, I guess let's see what's going on with the span reed. And she manages to make the code work so that her correspondent believes that she is Tin. And the correspondent says, you're going to like this, but the timing is a little bit tight. They want to meet tonight. And she's like, tonight? Geez. She looks at the clock. It is 1/2 first night bell, whenever the hell that is, which is just first moon right after dark. Okay, so I guess right after dark at least is something that we can relate to. First night bell and first moon are not concepts that we can relate to time-wise. And she writes back, I'm not ready. And the person says, they were insistent. Apparently Yasna's ward arrived today. What happened? And Shallan goes, it's none of your concern. And the person's like, oh yeah, of course. But they want to meet tonight. If you refuse, it might mean a severing of ties. I thought I had Yasna's ward captive and the girl betrayed me. I'm not well, but I will send my apprentice. And I like the span where he's like, another one, Tin, after what happened with S.I. is this person's name. And so the person gets them to sign off on meeting with an apprentice instead of Tin, which is good because Tin is dead and she's not showing up.
Nobody knows that yet.
Shallan doesn't think she can pull off impersonating a specific other person.
Data, don't give that away. They don't know that.
And I like the span reads like, can you make it to Sabarial's war camp quickly? And Shallan's like, yeah, I probably can.
I could probably do that.
Okay, job done.
Yeah, apparently Sabarial's is one of the few camps with gates open all night because there's a lot of business going on here. So, and the person's going to draw her a map for how to get where she needs to go. They want you there at Solace Moonheight, which she's like, oh geez, that's less than half an hour from now.
Also, what are all these damn names?
I believe Solace is one of the 3 moons.
Yeah, that one I remember. It's like, all right, you wanna go out, you wanna find like the building that's painted black. Why? That's the black market. They'll be in there.
It's interesting that we've got 3 moons here and no moons back on Scadrial.
Yep.
I don't remember the other planets, what they had going on moon-wise. I've got the star maps somewhere. I should probably look. Anyway.
Yeah, why you gotta be hogging all the moons, Rosha?
Yeah, what the hell? Give a brother a moon.
So Shallan takes some of Tin's clothes and puts them on. It's a good thing that they were pretty close to the same size. She has a glove on her safe hand, which she's like, oh man, I feel naked like this. Jeez. And then she gets a long white coat that goes down to the top of her boots. And then she's like, I need something to like cover my face because there's like a little imperfection on the nose. And she takes out that white hat of Bluth's that I guess she kept from his dead body that she thought looked silly on him. But she's like, hopefully it'll look better on me. I guess it goes with the coat. They're both white. So, and she's like, okay, it looks like I'm ready to go. And she tells Pattern, here we go. And out they go into the night. And that is the end of our chapters.
Dun, dun, dun.
Let's do some predigging. We'll go into some predicaments here. We are only reading 2 chapters next time. So they're a bit lengthier chapters, although the Kaladin chapter this time was actually pretty lengthy in and of itself. Actually, this next section will be one of the it's 2 chapters, but it's one of the shorter sections of the book that we'll do in one episode. So they're longer chapters than most of these, but they're not like super long chapters. Anyway, chapter 43 is called The Ghost Bloods.
Yay!
Ooh.
Yeah.
Exciting.
And chapter 44 is called One Form of Justice.
One form of justice.
What do you guys think? What do you want to predict?
I mean, I would be very surprised if the Ghost Bloods chapter turned out to be, I don't know, fucking Navani.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that would be a great bait and switch there.
What if Shallan makes it down to see the Ghost Bloods and Navani's just sitting there?
Navani is the Ghost Blood. Yeah, I don't know. And then One Form of Justice, I feel... Oh, I mean, that could be Kaladin. That could be Adolin. I don't know. I got nothing. But yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot of reveals. A lot of the frustrating reveals where they just raise more questions than they answer when Shallan goes to meet the Ghost Bloods. I feel like there'll probably be a couple. I don't know. Maybe we'll have a good cop, bad cop thing going on. One Form of Justice could be Adolin fighting his duel against that guy that he's called in for a duel, so that might be fun as well. I don't really have a lot to predict at this point, but the note that the chasm fiends are coming closer makes me think that okay, when the storm hits, the Everstorm, because I still think that's what the countdown is coming on for, and the fact that Eshonai is getting storm form for the rest of the Parshendi, I think that when that storm hits, the chasm fiends are going to be driven out of the chasms and just run riot over the shattered plains, and that's good. I just think that will just make the storm even worse and even more chaotic, and I'm here for it because that'll just be freaking cool.
Okay, I like this.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot else. I'm just intrigued to see where this Ghost Blood thing goes because we're finally. I think we talked about it last time. The fact that we've read the Lost Metal and we know who the Ghost Bloods work for has made that whole all a bit more palatable. If we'd had to wait this long to finally start getting some answers about the Ghost Bloods, I'd probably be a bit, man, this is taking forever to get to the point. Who are these people? So yeah. Yeah, glad we're cutting to the heart of it. But again, like I think I've said before, I'm not expecting a reveal that it's Kelsier. It's been Kelsier all along in this book. I'm not expecting it next book, and I'm not expecting it in book 4 because the Lost Metal was where the gloves came off. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be ahead of the game, you guys, because of the Lost Metal, is what we're getting. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think that we'll get reveals of whatever the Ghost Bloods are doing, but they're not going to come out and say that it's Kelsier who's leading them or what his goals are.
Okay. I mean, I don't know that we know what his goals would be on Roshar, at least.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. We've got no idea what he would want with this planet.
Yeah. I will say, and maybe less to you guys than to the audience, but there is something that's not explicitly revealed in the books, but that we know from Brandon and even from like implication in the books that I have received numerous people on the Discord and emails being like, hey, when are you going to tell the guys this? You should tell them this. I am annoyed at some of the things that are happening because you haven't told them this. So for all of the audience who if you were one of those, then you probably know what I'm talking about. I think next week will be the week that it comes out.
Ooh.
Okay. Now I'm annoyed.
But without knowing what it is you're talking about, I do think that like those reveals you do need to be careful with, because the thing that sticks out in my mind from like the words of Brandon, where we've learned stuff that isn't revealed in the books or whatever, is the one from Warbreaker, where it turns out Claude was R-Steel and is being used for sex by what's her face. Because I think that reveal really it sort of altered our perception of a lot of other stuff and informed a lot of the things that we said about that book from that moment forward, even though it was never actually relevant to the narrative.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, that one makes me think, man, like our entire reading of the book changed on that reveal, even though the narrative wasn't affected. So it's like, okay, we need I understand the juggling act you have to do in picking those reveals.
And it's funny about that specifically because after our coverage of Warbreaker, I've had at least a couple different people tell me, like, after listening to you guys do Warbreaker, I am never going to have anyone read Brandon's annotations for this book. I will just tell them to just read the book. I'm like, yeah, I could see why.
Yeah, fair.
Why you might feel that way. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to even argue that Ghostbloods could be about anything other than Shallan is on her way right now to meet the Ghostbloods. If the Ghostbloods chapter was not about that, then I feel like we might have reason to complain at that point. Like, now you're just messing with us, Brandon. Come on. But yeah, okay, we shall see.
Yeah, totally agree. Ghostbloods. I mean, it's got to be. We've got to be sticking with Shallan here and getting to this meeting. Now, I know we've already had some run-ins in interludes with people we know from other worlds that we kind of figured, Data kind of given us a heads up, and we kind of pieced together who those people were. But also, it's very possible. It seems very possible to me that maybe the Ghostbloods, the name Ghostbloods was a title that existed beforehand, and like even though in Lost Metal we know Kelsier is leader of the Ghostbloods, it's a possibility to me that maybe this organization on Roshar specifically is not actually like the Kelsier Ghostbloods. It may be a name that he borrowed, maybe even after toppling the organization in Roshar. But that's just me taking some creative license and kind of coming up with an interesting spin on what could possibly be going on with the Ghostbloods, since Data specifically said that there's something that he's going to reveal to us next week. Because, we've got this idea of who the Ghostbloods are based on our other readings, but just like we had ideas about like what the word shard meant, or shard blades, or plate, or whatever, like, that's not the same thing on Roshar as it is in the rest of the Cosmere, and so at least not exactly the same. And so it's a possibility that maybe this organization isn't the one that we know or have gotten information on in the past. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe the people that she's going to be meeting up with aren't the same people. But we have seen that those people are on Roshar, or at least they were. So it is still possible that it is the same organization for sure. But I'm also leaving it out there that maybe it's not, because that'd be fun. It'd be interesting if it was like somebody else. And then the next one, I don't have any really great guesses. Jumping off the page just from the title to me would be like, if it's about justice, maybe it has to do with like Amaram and Kaladin, because there's a certain kind of justice that Kaladin wants Amaram to face, and so maybe it has something to do with that. Yeah, I feel like going forward in the book, my other predictions would just be Kaladin's got to learn even more about his powers. Maybe we do that in like off-page montage where it's like, now Kaladin could do this and this and this. But I want to see more Blade Masters of Hell, so I hope they go back to him a little bit, because it'd be fun to see a little bit more of him. I think because Kaladin, we know Kaladin's going to train with him. So it'd be nice to kind of weave that other stuff in. And we also need to find out. Kaladin needs to either figure out that he's going to trust Dalinar pretty quick so that Dalinar can find out about Kaladin's powers, or something like that needs to happen, I feel like. So maybe that's coming soon as well. And then the Shallan Ghostblood stuff, like I don't know. I don't know when we're going to move past this Urithiru, because like what do we I guess what I'm trying to say is, when is the book going to make time for each of these storylines, which I know we have a lot of book left. Yep. But like, what, is there going to be a good chunk where we get, instead of little tiny snippets, where we get some progression on the Urithiru storyline, where we get some progression on the Shallan Adolin dating storyline? Like, is there going to be, so I'm hoping we're going to get progression on each of those storylines in a more streamlined way, I guess. Like little pieces here and there are a little bit unsatisfying, and I know it's probably just because of the nature of the way we read the book. But like, that's, again, it's like one of those things where I like these books a lot. I like these characters a lot, but I think the pacing is just a little bit off for me. Like, it's a little bit too slow. But again, we are reading this book slowly in chunks, so that could be part of it. But at the same time, even as a person who likes to sit and read, I don't like to read. Like, I'm not like Data, where at Data's level, like I don't read 40 chapters of a book in a day. Like, unless it's something I'm super excited and into, I don't do that. Like, the max I'd read in a day is like 8 or 9 chapters probably. And so even if I read 8 chapters of this book for this section, I would say we wouldn't have gotten a ton of progress. And so that's what I mean by maybe the pacing is not quite right for me, because I don't feel like sometimes we get enough. But that doesn't mean I don't like the book. Like I said, I like the book a lot, like the characters a lot. I just wish it was a little bit faster paced, but we'll get there.
Yeah, it's one of the things about this big epic of the Stormlight Archive that we talked about a little bit going in, but it's hard to wrap your brain around until we get into it, was that it is a slow burn. And the first book was probably the slowest burn. This one, I feel like this one is, the pace is sped up a little bit beyond the first one, but we're still building. So yeah, I mean, I agree. It is not fast paced. It is we last week's episode, we spent 3 chapters, the entire episode, with Shallan arriving at the King's Conference and then talking to some people at the King's Conference. That was 3 chapters. That was the entire episode that we did last time. And so it's not moving fast, but it's part of the experience of the Stormlight Archive, which, like you said, is maybe exacerbated by how we read the books. You mentioned that it's like Dalinar needs to find out about Kaladin at some point. And yeah, like Syl is practically begging Kaladin, like, come on, you got to show people what you can do. Just get out there, be you. Be like, you are exactly what Dalinar is looking for. And Kaladin in today's section is like, I have to know that he is the person I think he is before I reveal this. So Kaladin has put like a gate. I almost say he's gatekeeping it. He's put a gate on it. Like, this is what we have to get past to reach that. Yeah. So it's hard to say, like, what can Dalinar do to prove this to Kaladin? Yeah, because it wasn't enough. So what is it going to take?
We already talked about that during the chapters. Like, what is it going to take? Because like, he gave up a shard blade, which is like the very thing that Kaladin and his friends were killed over. Like, he gave that up for people he didn't know that well. And like, so what is it going to take? And I don't know the answer to that. Like, I don't know what he could do. I mean, I feel like they've both proven to each other that they're trustworthy people. So I don't really know what they can do going forward.
Yeah. Where do you go from here?
An excellent question. Yeah, like what? Something's going to have to happen, and it seems like Dalinar is going to have to. I was going to say Dalinar's going to have to do something spectacular, but he's done that. Is it something that Dalinar is going to have to do, or is it something that Kaladin is going to have to accept within himself to get past this?
Probably that second one.
So we shall have to see.
Maybe spending time with Renarin will help with that.
That would be nice if he can maybe learn that some Light Eyes are cool.
Yeah, because Renarin seems like a cool dude until he turns evil, but that may not be for a while.
And until he's totally evil, yeah, fair enough. All right, let's do a couple emails. How about that? It's funny. We got one email from a person who wanted to share a theory with us, and the theory was so spot on that I was like, I don't know that I want to read this. So I'm going to save that for a few episodes until we get to the episode where that theory is proven, and then I will share it with you guys, because I was like, man, do I want to put this in their heads before we get there? So
how many episodes away is that?
It's actually only like 3 or 4 episodes away at this point. So to that person, they actually sent me a follow-up email today that they're like, I just got to that part in the book, and it turns out I was right. And so, yeah, for that person, if you're listening, we're going to wait a little while, and I think you understand why at this point. So I was worried to even say anything about it on the show, because they were reading close to where we were, and I was like, I don't want to – if I don't read that section of their email, will that spoil for them that this was correct? And I would feel bad, like, inadvertently spoiling this for them. Now I don't have to worry about that. I can just say, yeah, they had a correct theory, and I'm not going to read it yet. So one email I am going to read is from Julie, and the title is Just Finished The Hero of Ages. Hey, Sanderlanche crew, I have to admit I peeked ahead to see if you read my email on the podcast, but I only listened to the email portion to avoid spoilers, I swear. I finally finished The Hero of Ages, and I loved the trilogy as a whole, but I genuinely think I wouldn't have liked it as much without the podcast. As many others have said, your predictions are always spot on, and it's fun to see where you think things will go next. In your response to my last email, you had said it's possible I could catch up with you guys, but I genuinely find that impossible. I think I took 6 months between books 1 and 2, and I'm a mood reader, and I love a sappy romance book or 5 as a palate cleanser. Now, after finishing the trilogy, I find myself quite invested, so who knows? Maybe I will catch up. Until then, I hope you don't mind getting emails from the past. Thanks again for the podcast. Wishing you all the best, Julie.
Yeah. Well, Julie, welcome from the world of tomorrow.
So, yeah, I mean...
See you in a few years, mate.
Right? I hope you enjoyed, it sounds like you did, that the first trilogy. There's often on Reddit, I'll see posts like, I just finished The Hero of Ages, and there's like this duality to the post, that some of them are like, oh my gosh, it was so amazing, it was so perfect, and some of them are like, I hate what they did to Ellen and Vin. Why did they have to die? They didn't deserve that. And I'm just like, yeah, I get it, but
yeah, I was pretty passionate about the ending. I was like, I don't know, I didn't really like that. And then now I've kind of come around on it. It's fine.
I mean, it broke me when I finished that book. I was just like, I love these characters. It's so sad, but I still think that it was a very fitting ending for the two of them. So it can be both. It can be like, it can make you sad and still be well written and like good. And I think that's what that was personally. But you're entitled to your opinion. So I'm glad that Julie liked that, and I hope that you enjoy moving forward with the podcast. It's okay to read a nice romance book or 5 between reading other books. You do you. I just I finished a book that I picked up in our local bookstore. We went there. They were having a kids activity for free where they get to make a craft or something. So we took the kids, and while waiting around, I just spotted a couple of books that the titles sounded interesting, and I was like, hey, here we go. And one of them was like Assistant to the Villain, and it was a little more romancy than I usually go in for. I'm just like,
is that John Scalzi?
No. Hold on. It is a book by Hannah Nicole Mayer, Maehrer, Mayer.
Don't know her.
T-I-double-G-er.
But it was a fun little story, but at the same time, I'm just like, how many times can you have the two main characters think in their head like different ways to say like, I'm attracted to this other person? Like, I get it. I don't need like 20 different ways to say it at various times. Like, I get you find the other person attractive. It's fine.
Yeah. People like finding other people attractive. It's cool. Everybody's cool.
And so yeah, not exactly my thing necessarily, but it was pretty good. Like, I'm okay with some romance. I'm not as big on it as some of the other people in my family who are like romancier. My teenage daughter has been reading romance stuff where she's like, does this one have spice? And I'm like, oh God, I don't.
Oh no.
That is not a discussion you need to have.
No.
Oh, I don't want to know that about my niece. Oh, jeez.
So yeah.
Does this one have the spice? No.
Also, when I was there, I picked up a different book from just the funny looking title that I ended up messaging Dak about because it had a relevant to the show section, but it's called How to Be or How to Become the Evil Overlord and Die Trying, or something like that. And it had the main character early on in the book becomes the leader of like a band of, I don't remember if they're goblins, orcs, something like that, her first step towards becoming the evil overlord. And she's like, so I wanted to get to know my new followers, my new minions. So I was going through talking to each of them. I wanted to find out their names, their fears, their hopes and dreams. That lasted about 30 seconds until she explained to me that this is Crazy Vaclav, not to be confused with Lazy Vaclav.
Nice.
And so
all the kerosene.
And then it's funny because after I sent you that message, like a page later, a third character pops up who's also named Vaclav, and the main character's like, "No, I'm done. Nope, this is ridiculous."
What country are you guys from? He no longer exists.
And Dak's like, that has to be intentional. Like they knew what they were doing. And then way later in the book, the main character just in conversation without any sort of explanation of the reference or anything, just uses the word cromulent in context.
Oh my god!
And I was like, okay, yeah, we got a Simpsons fan here. I got it. It's good.
Yep. They have well and truly just embiggened at your perspective.
So that's a fun book that I would recommend to some extent to people. It's entertaining. I told my friend that it had so many pop culture references. It felt almost like Ready Player One, but with less excuse for the pop culture references, but also less explanation. It doesn't do the thing that Ernest Cline does, where he makes a reference and then explains the reference to you so that you understand how clever it was. It's just like throwing cromulent out there. Just throws it in there, and either you get it or you don't, and we move on. Which I appreciate. Not the author not feeling like I need my hand held on that. But anyway, so sorry.
Calculon, would you like to set up this clip? No, I think it speaks for itself.
I took us on a bit of a tangent there about my recently read books. Sorry, guys.
No, that's fine. That's what they come for. They come for the tangents.
The next email is from Christopher with a K. Christopher. It's titled Cosmere Characters, Dinner or Capsule Bread, trademark, Jama's Addiction Payment Accepted. That's a hell of a title. Hello, Sanderlanche crew. I hope you're doing well. And of course, keep up your amazing discussion and speculation. After recovering from fanboying when I heard my name being read out, I decided that to make up for the simplicity of my first email, here's something for discussion. Which Cosmere character would you love to hang out with for dinner and chatting? And who would you slip a slice of capsule bread to? Crabs ahoy, crab at thee, Christopher.
Oh, interesting if true. Okay. Well, I feel like Straff Venture's an easy capsule bread recipient.
Sure.
He kind of did get capsule breaded. That was kind of the way he died, right? Am I wrong about that? I don't remember.
Well,
he got split in half.
Yes, Vin cut him and his horse.
That's what it was. I couldn't remember.
He got the Brandon special. Died with his horse.
Gotcha. And so, Straff Venture, easy capsule bread award winner. Maybe Zane, his son too. Just give them both one. That's fine.
I thought you were going to say maybe Zane is the person I want to have dinner with.
No. And then who would I want to have dinner with? I mean, probably Sazed. He's a good dude.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I feel like you'd have good conversation with Sazed. Like, I like Vasher a lot, but like I don't feel like we'd have sparkling conversation.
Yeah. Plus, some of the others you'd always suspect it's like you say the wrong thing or like about your history or whatever, and Kelsey might start looking at you sideways and go, someone needs to die. So
yeah,
I feel like Hoyd is probably the obvious choice. It's like he seemed like he'd be good to hang out with, but he would probably just spend most of the dinner just like making jokes that you're not going to get and then laughing at you. So
he did exactly that at dinner with Dalinar one time. So yeah, okay,
yeah. That's like my life now, so I don't need that in my fake life.
Plus, you don't want to go to dinner with Wayne because that's how he's going to eat all your food and then stiff you with the bill.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, what was the Southerner from Era 2 made the really good chocolate?
Oh yeah, Marisai's boyfriend.
Marisai's boyfriend. He was good value. I could probably hang out with him.
Man, his name is escaping me. Hold on. Alec, Allik.
Alec,
yeah. I like that. That's a good choice. Yep. Okay. Did you give a murder candidate? I forget.
Moash. I don't know.
Moash, you're like,
Yeah, just get rid of him.
Give the people what they want. I mean, yeah, again, Straff is the obvious choice because he's probably him or King Iodon are probably the two most loathsome people we've really come across lately. I'd forgotten about Zane. He was really unpleasant. He was a creeper, which is a shame because like after we'd finished that book, like a while later, for the first time, I met someone in real life named Zane, and he is the loveliest dude. And I'm like, oh, I can't hate that name anymore.
Yeah.
Nice.
I want to point out something, okay? Because I didn't think about it, right? I didn't hesitate. I said Straff. I did not say Spook. I want people to understand that. I don't want Spook to die. I just don't like him.
He doesn't deserve murder, but
No.
don't like him. Yeah, that's fair.
Nah,
Okay.
don't like him.
Yep, that's an important distinction to make.
Yeah. Maybe I'd give Spook the capsule bread and like after he got uncomfortable, the jam antidote.
There you go.
Antidote.
Just to mess
the
with
jam antidote. Yeah, just be like, ha, almost got you.
Man, the who do you want to have dinner with is a tough one for me because there's so many interesting characters. Like I'm thinking like Chris is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Like maybe Siri and Sosabron actually. Like once he can talk, I feel like this would be an interesting couple just hang out with. Steris, I love Steris. Maybe Tress, which is from a book we haven't read yet, so you guys wouldn't have an opinion on that one. But
Tress of the Emerald Sea.
yeah, there's lots of good candidates. That one's tough for me.
If I've had to pick someone from Nalthus, probably Lightsong. He'd be okay for a chat, for a hang out for a dinner.
I was gonna say, would you be picking like Blushweaver? But I feel like that dinner could get uncomfortable.
Yeah, very quickly.
All three of us are married, so yeah, that's I don't want to get into that.
Nah, you don't want to get involved with that.
Blushweaver, this isn't a topless bar. Well, it should be.
It's like, this is my home, Blushweaver. Please put your top on.
Oh man.
So I'm watching the new Futurama episodes on they're on Disney Plus for us, but they're like Hulu is producing them, and I know you guys probably won't ever watch them, which is fine. Like honestly, these episodes haven't been there is like some of them haven't been great. I wouldn't say in fact I wouldn't say any of them have been amazing, but there have been a few that I have enjoyed watching, and one of them was Leela, Amy, and a bunch of the women they know go to a winery, and what's her name, Nurse Good and Sexy or whoever she is. The winery is run by Hedonism Bot.
Oh, nice.
And naturally, he's just like, by the way, clothing is optional. And yeah, the nurse lady just goes, optional? And you see she's naked, and she's like, oh, clothing's optional? Well, I guess I could wear it. So she puts her clothes on. I thought, all right, that was pretty good.
Yeah, I'll get to him eventually. I still never watched all the Comedy Central run.
Oh, is it Dr. Cahill?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Who worked at the Head Museum.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Who deserves capsule bread for me? Maybe Roshone. I hate Roshone.
Really?
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Roshone's a hell of a dick.
I mean...
Not just a dick, a hell of a dick.
Sadeas is pretty bad.
Probably, yeah, Amarim and Sadeas probably worse, to be honest. Yes, Sadeas maybe is at the top of that list, now that you say that. I don't know.
Well,
that's
the
true.
The thing is, like Roshone is just far more petty than Sadeas.
He's
Sadeas
so
can
petty.
Sadeas can be petty, but Roshone is petty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Major
Okay.
dick.
We've actually got like a bunch more emails, but I think this is a good place to wrap it up for this time. So we do not have any new patrons this week, no new reviews, so we won't get into those.
If you'd like to send us a review, then please go on Apple Podcasts or screenshot wherever else you send us a review, and I'll jump you in to the Misting crew.
Yeah, that thing that Joe said. If you want to send us an email to show us your review or for any other reason, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram and X and Facebook and Patreon, where I am currently reading preview chapters of Wind and Truth as well as Dragonsteel Prime and posting my reactions as I'm reading those for the first time. So check that out if you like. And if you join our Patreon, you will also Joe will give you a fairing power as well. So
you could possibly be double, just like some of our favorite characters from Second Era.
compounder. I'm pretty sure some people have completely inadvertently ended up being compounders already, based on feedback in the Discord. So it can happen. It has happened.
Yeah, it could happen to you because guess what? Just like RNG, my brain is RNG. So you're just gonna get whatever.
It's totally accurate the way what he just said. Yep.
Yeah.
RNG confirmed.
Yeah. RNG brain confirmed.
So check that out if that sounds like an interesting thing to you guys. If it's not, I don't blame you for not wanting to listen to me talk even more than you already hear me talk on the podcast. I don't want to listen to me talk that much. So, no hard feelings.
I'm a guy like me. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, for next time, just 2 chapters, 43 and 44, if you are following along. It's a relatively small section compared to some of the ones that we've done. So, not too much hardship there. We are at the end of this chapter. We are 45% of the way through the book. So, we are approaching the midpoint in a couple more episodes. And then we will start we will reach the top of the mountain and start going down the other side. Is that how that works? I don't know. Really, it's just like if the book is a mountain, then the end of the book is the top of the mountain, and then you look over and you see an even bigger mountain on the other side of it that you have to then climb. So, that is the way that these Stormlight books work.
That's funny.
All right, so 2 chapters for next time. Music by Miracle of Sound and Wasing to the Time of Next. Colo. P.S. Fasher. Crabbat.
You forgot your name. Don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia. You've been through such pain. But you're growing stronger every day. Amnesia.